Hello, everyone, and welcome to Not the Newsletter. We're bringing the breaking news to you today because of a Crowdstrike outage that we thought would be awesome to talk about and interject into our normal schedule. I'm here today with Noah Wiley to talk about Crowdstrike and talk about, as we're doing in this Not the Newsletter program, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and other technology. We felt like this was a great opportunity. So Noah, Crowdstrike outage, what do you think? Have any thoughts there?
Is this our most time applicable podcast we've ever done?
100%. We just have to get it out like immediately. So it's like more of a news thing, right?
Do we have a breaking news banner across the bottom?
Yeah, exactly. With just like stock tickers on there, has nothing to do with what we're actually talking about.
CCA stock.
Yeah, there you go.
So Crowdstrike is it's a lot of things. It's a whole like SOC platform, MDR, EDR. Sounds like it has some other. It's basically a big cybersecurity suite of applications to help companies not get hacked. That's like the most simplistic way. They do a lot of investigation, like cybersecurity investigations, like for Sony and stuff back in the day. They do a lot of stuff, but they're a really big player in like the security space. Today, or technically last night, they released an update to their Falcon suite of applications, which is all their like security software and everything like that. And the update had a little bit of a problem. Little bit of a problem.
Yep.
That's an understatement. They haven't necessarily said what it is yet. It's all just a lot of theories and everything like that. But what is known is that the update, basically if a computer got the update, a Windows computer, it basically just puts the computer into a massive boot loop that it cannot get out of.
Yeah.
And so if any computer, server, anything like that runs on it and is using this CrowdStrike, which normally if you have a company, you would put it on any endpoint that you have, server, computer, whatever, that just is stuck in a massive boot loop. So you might have already seen airlines, banks, many services. Some of our services that we're using here are affected today.
Yeah, I had issue getting into some things this morning. Strangely enough, some things didn't work and then did, though. So I wonder if they just acted quickly, because there are some fixes out already of just how to get into recovery safe mode and then find the system file to get rid of it. So maybe people just acted quickly. But the images are pretty hilarious of seeing, in the airports just entirely with, no computers on, everything's just blue screens and everywhere, like all the flight information and all that sort of stuff is
like you were saying, you couldn't get logged into a bank account this morning,
right? Which was kind of bad. Yeah.
Like whole airlines like Delta, Ryanair, many of them are just like kind of just, I guess they probably wouldn't ground all flights, but they can't do new flights or anything like that. I guess anything in the air, you're probably fine. But like they're just saying they're like kind of halting everything because they can't do anything right now.
Right. So yeah, I think they're probably just going to delay things, right? So,
I would assume so. Yeah. But I think so. CrowdStrike is very involved, as they should be with it. They're kind of working directly with probably the biggest companies first, like how to fix it and what to do and everything like that. But it's more or less just the quick fix, not a temporary fix, or not a permanent fix, is just reverting the update and waiting. But that's kind of hard to do if your computer just is in a massive boot loop. You have to like do like an image-based backup or something like that. And if you don't have that, then you kind of have to try, like Chris said, get into safe mode and see if you can undo it, because they did announce a way to undo it. There is an update out now that is supposed to fix it, but again, if your computer's already boot looping,
you have to get to something that's working. It's funny. There's even versions of it that like the tap to pay, like credit checkout machines are running on Windows, right? So there's like little tiny blue screens on checkout machines with that. I think it's funny. You don't realize what those things are running. I think sometimes you're just like, oh, it's just it's a kiosk thing, or it's a whatever, and the back end is Linux or Windows or something. It's running something, and so it's funny to see them have like Windows screens, because you're so used to them having whatever the kiosk mode or the whatever
square
UI they're allowed to let you see, and then behind it is this like Windows thing. It's kind of funny.
So what does this mean for people as of right now? Obviously, if it's kind of just like a sit and wait. If you are using it, then obviously you need to kind of get in touch with CrowdStrike and figure out what to do.
Yeah, and I got a whole bunch of emails already this morning of just like where it is, like, hey, it's in Windows, System 32 drivers, CrowdStrike. And there's like a C string of whatever the update is that bust. You can just remove that, and it seems like it just goes back to normal. So I guess if you have the computer, go do that.
Yeah, you would need, a lot of the issues with this is for almost any of that, you need physical access.
Yeah, you need console access to it, right? So it'd have to be in VMware or something, so you could get console access to get into safe mode, to do whatever. And I would imagine most of them have that. I think the issue isn't so much I need to get console access to it. It's just like I need to get console access to it. So there's, you're Delta. I have 2,500 computers, maybe more than that. Like
Probably
I don't
more.
even know, right?
Yeah.
So I now have to go get access to all of those and get into this system file and delete that thing and then reboot it and then run the new update so that it works fine. And then, I don't know how many staff you have that are going to do that, but
I don't know.
It's a catastrophe because you have to do that times yeah, I don't even know. And that's per company, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's a lot. So
then I guess then what do you do then? If you do, or no, here's a better question. How do you, because sure, this happened to CrowdStrike and it sucks. This could happen to anybody.
Right.
Like this isn't a hack, this isn't a whatever. This is an update that got written incorrectly. It's probably like honestly one line that was wrong, and now it's like massively breaking things. That could happen to anything.
Sure.
So like, what's the way to like solve that? Probably just like if it's a server or like anything you can VM, like backups,
snapshots, yeah,
like super good backups that you can just like revert to, and probably make sure this is gonna be hard. I was gonna say make sure your backup server wouldn't also be affected by the same thing, because that'd be colossally bad too.
Right. That's not a bad idea. Yeah,
Like
that's
your backup server also somehow
running Windows.
Oh no, that one's broken too. I guess it probably wouldn't run Windows, but
yeah, you'd probably run it on Linux or something else. I would think, right? You'd run on something different. Yeah, but even VMware wouldn't be affected by it, or whatever the host is. So
unless it's Hyper-V.
Yeah, that could be an
then
issue. Yeah, then you might have a big time issue.
Right.
And yeah, VMware got really expensive recently too, so I'm sure there's probably a little bit of a motivator not to get VMware anymore too for some people. But I think that is the cool part about it, is I think if you had, it's one of these things that you do and then people plan better, right? You're just like, oh my gosh, we never thought that could happen. And then they're just like, okay, how do we create enough storage to snapshot 2,500 computers every night?
Right.
You know, just so that I can like, yeah, great, it's not awesome, but I can revert to last night and then bring in the new flights or bring in the new bank information or do whatever, right? Like off of the database. And probably the databases are fine, right? It's probably not even happening to everything. It might even just be like the end, you know, the client and the sort of front end devices that have the issue.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's backups, you know, recovery planning. Because if they had that, if it was just like, oh, okay, whoops, like restored to 3 hours ago, like just do it times all of them, right? And you just get people in there and reboot everything.
And that doesn't mean that wouldn't be a big infrastructure thing in order to be able to run that. But like again, if your company's large enough, like if you're at Delta Airlines, you're probably gonna you should hopefully scale that.
Yeah, it would be a storage thing, right? To keep all those snapshots, and it's a process too. You have to make the snapshots and then clean them up when you make another one, and yeah, it's kind of a mess. And it's probably things that you don't expect to need. I would almost think those would boot up with some sort of like a Pixie boot thing too. So I wonder if your image gets messed up such that it's, you know, you put the image into the Pixie boot and now it's broken there. But maybe then it's easy. You just go find that image that you're booting to and you fix it one time, and then you just make that the available image to all the computers. You'd have to find a way to reboot them though, but there's gotta be a way to do that.
It shouldn't be as bad. Yeah. I will say since recording this in the 10 minutes that we've been recording this, I had the page pulled up. I'm not hooked up, but it's not a big deal. CrowdStrike. I've been calling
CrowdStrike, yeah.
Clarification, if I said CloudStrike, it's CrowdStrike. Please axe that from the record. I apologize. CrowdStrike, not CloudStrike. I might have been saying CloudStrike. Anyways, just in the time that we've been doing this, CrowdStrike had updated their page on this instant, because originally when we first started looking at this morning, they had a very brief page that, hey, like we're aware of an issue, we're working with, you know, a very candid whatever. Now I refreshed the page and it seems like they have a much larger details. Like they say details of kind of like where you were talking about, where the actual update is, like in the system, like how to remove it, like how to do the update or how to like roll it back, AWS specific information on how to like correct it, stuff related to BitLocker. Like they're definitely kind of going more in depth about it, as they should.
Yeah, workarounds for individual hosts. And
do you think, as a maybe closing thought, kind of sad for CrowdStrike, but is there going to be a class action out of this possible?
I don't know. I guess the question is, did they do anything wrong?
It's an unfortunate mistake. Like I guess you could argue like, oh, your quality assurance should have tested. I don't know, but anything can happen.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an unfortunate thing, but so hopefully CrowdStrike. It
does seem weird though, because if it happens to every single computer that gets the update, you think that you would have done it on any computers and it would have been like, oh, blue screens.
That's what I'm kind of confused about, but we'll see. I'm sure they're going to investigate, and there might be a third-party investigation too, but we will see.
And if you're running Windows 7 or 08 R2, you're not impacted. So just like run a really, really old version of something, and then you're good to go. That's
also for the record, that's not our recommendation.
In case anyone's watching this and doesn't know Chris, he's joking. Yeah, and obviously it's not impacting Mac or Linux, and
but there, you're good then.
Good to go,
we use CrowdStrike here, but you're good.
Yeah, but that's the point. It could be any software, right? It could happen to
anything.
Yeah, I don't think anything is. The issue is a SOC EDR platform is very integrated into the operating system.
Right.
I don't think Word is going to have that kind of an issue, or something like that. But it would be a, antivirus malware. Do we need to define this? I don't know if anyone's going to know what a SOC, EDR, MDR.
I think we have before, but go ahead.
Managed detection response, endpoint detection response.
So like, what do those do?
Well, they look for any sort of.
I was gonna say, don't define it by the word.
I was, but at least we're saying these things that people don't know what
That's true.
what the little acronyms mean.
That is true.
So an MDR is just like looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a good word.
Irregularities.
Yeah, I was gonna say variables, but yeah, irregularities and things like that, where it's just like, hey, this is what I've seen is normal, and all of a sudden someone logs in from a different country or a different computer, or the MAC address is wrong or something. Anything,
This file
anything
extension randomly just changed.
Exactly right,
ran
or the name changed. Yeah, exactly, and something.
Yep.
That hasn't changed in forever, and so then it kind of looks for those weird things that maybe an antivirus wouldn't necessarily find. And then the Security Operations Center, the SOC, would then sort of respond to those things. So it's that's not necessarily like on the computer. It's more of like where it's kind of reporting to.
Right. But to Chris's point, for that to do all that, like analysis, detection, whatever, it has to be like very integrated into the computer. So it gets a very low level.
Yeah.
Low level access. I had to think about low level. So if there's something really broken in that, it can just. It's not like a program where it's just like, oh, Chrome doesn't work, so then Chrome stops working. It's like
you can't open Chrome or it crashes or gives you an error or something.
Right, exactly. It's like, well, in order for the computer to boot, this thing now has to work. So now that doesn't work, the computer doesn't turn on anymore.
Right.
So.
Yep. Sad, but you kind of need those things. Like those. I mean, tons of those. We've had those even some recently, where all those systems like do what they're supposed to, right? Where it's like middle of the night, something goes on, it's weird, and the SOC people call and they look up. They're good tools to have.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah. And, people probably panic about it and switch to a different provider, and then it'll happen to someone else. And I don't think there's nothing perfect.
No, absolutely not. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, you can dog on CrowdStrike, I guess, but like it can happen to anything.
It can. Yeah, I think they've acted quickly, and that's at least good. It's not like some of these outages where I'm just like, you see some of these ransomware things and they last for forever. You're just like, how do you guys not have a plan to like figure this out and then release information quickly and then.
To their benefit, they have acted pretty quickly.
Yep.
Like obviously, we're not interacting with them at all. We don't use CrowdStrike for anything. But the information that they've been like putting out into the public has been very fast and pretty descript too, which is good. So
yeah, and honestly, some of the things that I think I couldn't get to this morning probably were because of the outage. And I mean, maybe half an hour ago, we're working. So
sure,
they must have gotten the information. They were a small enough company that they could go and
do it relatively fast.
Get all that stuff running. Do relatively quickly, get everything working again. So, not much more. Any? I was gonna say, are there any takeaways for people?
I think just make sure you have a really, really good backup solution, and more importantly, a good backup plan.
Yeah,
because you can have a great solution, but if you don't have a good plan for it, you're just gonna be kind of dragging your feet or spinning your wheels, whatever the term would be, for a bit, and then that still cause more downtime. So. The logical, really good like backup system, whatever that is, systems probably, and then also like a plan of execution, like a disaster recovery plan. Like, oh my gosh, okay, this happened, then we do this, and this to get everything back on.
Yeah, and that's funny because I think CrowdStrike has to be sort of like helping in this thing, but yeah, if people just had like a good backup, they could just be like, yeah, the update was broken, and you could just be like, I don't even know if it's a backup, it's a recovery point or something, right? Like a snapshot or something, so you could just go back to that version of it, from last night or early in the morning or whenever you figured the update ran, and you could be pretty much back to normal.
Just make sure it doesn't rerun no, they would have pulled the update at this point, but
exactly.
I'm sure CrowdStrike pulled it really fast.
Reboot everything and it just gets the update again.
Oh no, we'd have to undo that. Yeah.
Sorry guys, we didn't have it off the systems yet. Now try again.
But yeah, that's kind of the takeaway.
And I think that's the thing. I think people will get better, right? Like this will happen and people will be just like, okay, how do we prevent something like this to never happen again? And like, oh yeah, we haven't really taken our last snapshots from a week ago, so we have them, but they're not really good. So, like, okay, well, what do we have to do to make them every night? Well, this. Okay, cool.
Right.
Make that so. Yeah. Good stuff.
That's pretty much it. So it's a very live breaking thing. So hopefully they get kind of all straightened up and hopefully it's not like some other stuff where we get to talk about multiple weeks in a row.
If we talk about it next week and Delta's still down, yeah.
Oh, that would be bad. But yeah, that's today's. Do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else. No, I think it was just a quick one. We just decided this was worthwhile to talk about, and
we love to be able to share things like really readily. Just because newsletters are hard because you only do it once a month, so sometimes it's like, oh, the thing we talked about is really cool to talk about, but it's like 3 weeks ago, so it's like can't always share about it. So yeah, cool. If you guys have any questions on this, again, it probably isn't really affecting a lot of things that A lot of our customers aren't really any CrowdStrike related things, but if you have any questions on it, because like we talked about, a lot of your services might be affected.
Yeah, tons of cloud stuff is probably running CrowdStrike in some way or another. And that's the thing. If it's anywhere in the network, it probably could take something down, right? If it's like, okay, well, maybe the servers weren't running out of maybe, but maybe there was like a front end like authorization server that was like any part of the equation, is gonna make stuff.
If you have questions on it, just let us know. Happy to answer stuff. Happy to talk with anybody. So other than that, I think that's all we have to talk about today.
I think that's it. Yep.
Cool.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, have a good Friday. See you, everyone.
Later.